We have this trend line going back to basically May, and it beautifully tags this line multiple times. And if you look at where Bitcoin currently sits, I mean, it is knocking on this door. Now, basically, you could say it's hit the door 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 days in a row. And I'm in the camp that I think we are going to push through. I think some of the macro bottom, the few things that will, in my opinion, start to form a bottom. Number one, we have to see people really giving up on Bitcoin. And I'm not saying everyone, but you have to see a good chunk. Just like in 2009, people kind of didn't even want to open their brokerage accounts and see the financials, see their portfolios. I mean, it was really this kind of like the blood in the streets type thing. So I think in bear markets, you have to see that as a bottom. I think another combination factor would be if you get to a point where the Fed not only stops hiking, but also starts lowering rates and going towards quantitative easing again. And then I also think there's other signals, right? So you have
In today's video, we will have Gareth Soloway, the President, CFO, and Chief Market Strategist of InTheMoneyStocks.com and VerifiedInvestingCrypto.com make a new Bitcoin price prediction. This time, he even goes further and says there's a potential breakout to the upside happening before the bigger flush comes in, and he will even tell you 5 things that need to happen for Bitcoin to find its ultimate bottom. Let's start with the question, out of all that's happening in crypto, and knowing what you know, what cryptos would you be buying?
So definitely in this environment, if you're accumulating, you got to stick with the best of breed. So Ethereum and Bitcoin, and mainly because number one, the SEC said that Bitcoin at least is a commodity. So it gives us a little bit of a framework to understand what the rules will be for that. Ethereum, again, is just the use cases. There's so much use case for it. There's so much kind of build out on it that I think that's the one. The other ones, there could be a massive winner in there, but you don't want to commit a ton of capital, because if you look back 2 years ago or 3 years ago, if you looked at the top 20 coins, it's very few of them are still in that top 20. Like look at Litecoin, it's fallen way down the list. I mean, and so you just want to be careful. And I think in bear markets, it's where you need to be the most careful, because the good will really rise above the rest. So I think that's really important to kind of focus on those main ones.
Gareth has been saying he is a long-term bull in the Bitcoin vision for a while. Is he still playing it that way?
I'm a huge long-term bull in terms of the use case and the need for something like Bitcoin and even Ethereum. Again, I got interested back in like 2011, 2012 in Bitcoin because I saw what the Fed was doing out of the financial crisis. And to me, I couldn't understand how it made sense when I was earning money or trying to create a living, how they could just print money out of thin air. And in theory, that makes my money worth less because there's more dollars out there. And so the idea of Bitcoin made so much sense to me back then. I wish I invested a lot more back then, frankly. But of course, you'd play it safe, and I did play it safe, and I traded in and out of it. But the bottom line is I'm a cycles guy. I'm a chart guy, which means I'm a realist that cycles occur. So you have these mega moves, just like the stock market. You had it in crypto, and then you have bear cycles. And so you can be a long-term bull and still expect a 50, 60, 70, 80% correction in Bitcoin. It's just might as well trade around that. From a crypto perspective, like the big boogeymen in crypto were like, everyone hate the Fed because, crypto's our salvation. And then here we're like, Fed, could you please print some money so the crypto and assets will go up? And the same thing with the dollar. The dollar is going to be worthless, so you got to own Bitcoin. Well, guess what happens? It goes the opposite way as well. So I think it's important to differentiate between your short-term views and your long-term. Like long-term, I'm still very bearish on the dollar. I still think eventually the Fed goes back to what they do best, which is printing us out of recessions or depressions. So I think long-term it makes sense, but in the short term, it makes sense that the dollar strengthened because every other central bank was doing the same thing. And then you could argue that they were doing it even to a bigger extent, like the Bank of Japan. And so we have to remember that the dollar is valued against other currencies versus against a basket of goods. And now we see prices going up quite substantially.
Let's look at Gareth's Bitcoin price prediction for Bitcoin. If you have seen our previous videos, Gareth has been talking about a 9K bottom happening next year, but this time, maybe we have some short-term bull opportunities here.
So we have this trend line going back to basically May, and it beautifully tags this line multiple times. And if you look at where Bitcoin currently sits, I mean, it is knocking on this door. Now, basically, you could say it's hit the door 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 days in a row. And I'm in the camp that I think we are going to push through. I think some of the macro developments today, like the Bank of Japan intervening, we saw the dollar yen start to collapse a little bit, the dollar's weakening. That's all positive for maybe getting a breakout in the Bitcoin chart in the near term. The only thing I would say, though, is just keep in mind that within this like short-term breakout, we still have a channel, which would be known as a bearish kind of channel. And I want to just show this here, is that you have this pattern, right? So even if we break out above this line, and let's say we rally to 25,000, you're still in this longer sideways choppy range, which to me is still on the bearish side. So overall, if you had to quantify it, it's very near-term bullish, but mid-term still bearish. I still think we have further downside to go.
And now, these are the 5 things that need to happen for the ultimate bottom to happen.
The few things that will, in my opinion, start to form a bottom. Number one, we have to see people really giving up on Bitcoin. And I'm not saying everyone, but you have to see a good chunk. Just like in 2009, people kind of didn't even want to open their brokerage accounts and see the financials, see their portfolios. I mean, it was really this kind of like the blood in the streets type thing. So I think in bear markets, you have to see that as a bottom. I think another combination factor would be if you get to a point where the Fed not only stops hiking, but also starts lowering rates and going towards quantitative easing again. And then I also think, like, I mean, there's other signals, right? So you have maybe piercing 10,000 where a lot of stops. I could see a lot of stops being right below or right at 10,000 on Bitcoin. That flushes out the weak hands. And lastly, I'd look for signals like where does Michael Saylor get squeezed, right? Where is his max pain level? And that may be that bottom point where he finally gets that point. I mean, imagine if I doubt he would ever throw in the towel, but if he was forced to liquidate some of his Bitcoin, that could be a bottoming event. The last thing I would also mention would be we got to get regulation. All right. And I'm not talking about bad regulation. I think in general, assets need to, anyone investing wants to know the rules of the game. And right now in crypto, like no big money's willing to take big stakes because we don't know, right? What's a security? What's a commodity? What are the rules that these so-called securities have to follow? So without knowing that, it just kind of makes it very kind of iffy in terms of putting a lot of money. Like even myself, I invest in Bitcoin. I have small holdings in Bitcoin, but until I know more, I can't put more money at risk because I don't want to see bad regulation come out and then it drops 50% on me or more. Price should tell us, meaning that if Bitcoin flushes sharply, we get a reversal sort of bottoming tail on heavy volume. It breaks the 10K. Like, I mean, there should be some clear signals at that point that we hit a bottom.
What does it need to happen for Bitcoin to go to 500,000 or even 1 million?
People that want Bitcoin and think Bitcoin's going to, 250,000, 500,000, 1 million, you got to get the bigger money in there to create that scenario. So I do think that people, I mean, you can look at it two ways. You can look at, regulation. They're going to know everything about us because, they're going to regulate it and track every transaction and everything like that. Or you can say, hey, listen, I'm an investor. I'm trying to build wealth for my friend, my family and my future. And therefore, I need more participants to get in here, and you need the regulation for that. And again, even think about like older Americans, right? I mean, even myself, I'm not super old by any stretch, but without FDIC insurance on crypto accounts, there's risks, and especially for older Americans, older people around the world, they click on the wrong link, and someone gets in their crypto account and steals all their money. It's gone right now. Like there's no recourse, there's no FDIC insurance. And that's for a lot of people, that's something that will keep them from investing in it. Volatility has come out of it a little bit. And I think that's from more participants, right? You get more participants, you get more institutions involved. So you don't have as wild swings where it's just mom and pops or kids, buying and selling and panicking and pumping and stuff like that. So I think that's a good thing. And that's why I'm really excited that as we get regulation, it's going to bring in more and more big money that, while the crypto community is oftentimes anti-big money, we don't want to get the big banks, the big hedge funds involved. In a weird way, they bring stability, right? They bring, you don't see when the markets drop 10%, all the hedge funds don't dump all their Apple stock, right? Or Apple would crash, so they kind of hold through the craziness while the smaller investor tends to panic and then, chase the runs as well. So I think that's a really good thing. I can't wait till there's a Bitcoin spot ETF. I think that would be even better for the overall market. And I think you just have to get more and more participants to be okay with cryptocurrencies, and then you'll see the stability increase even more.
Did you enjoy this video? In the comments below, let us know your opinion on this breakout. Is it an excellent opportunity to catch some quick profits? Also, remember to leave a like and subscribe for more daily crypto content just like this. Thank you for watching. See you tomorrow.